In November 2022, the college town of Moscow, Idaho, was the kind of place where people rarely locked their doors. It was a quiet, isolated community wrapped in the rolling hills of the Pacific Northwest. But that sense of safety collapsed when 4 vibrant university students, Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan, were found brutally murdered in their off-campus home. Investigators were immediately met with a chilling vacuum of physical evidence. There was no obvious motive. The weapon was entirely missing, and the killer had seemingly evaporated into the freezing winter night without leaving a single clear trail. The only immediate lead came from a terrified surviving roommate. Around 4 a.m., she cracked open her bedroom door and froze as a tall figure, clad entirely in black, with a mask obscuring his face, walked silently right past her.
Police eventually focused their investigation on a 28-year-old Ph.D. student who was actively specializing in the same field used to find him, criminology. He spent his adult life studying how law enforcement tracks criminals. He knew exactly what it takes to evade capture. So how does an academic expert leave behind the exact pieces of evidence needed to completely dismantle his own alibi? To find their phantom, the FBI had to cast a massive digital net over the entire region. Investigators pulled thousands of hours of security footage from local businesses, traffic cameras, and residential doorbells. They started linking the frames together, mapping out the movements of a single, highly suspicious vehicle, seen repeatedly circling the victim's neighborhood in the early morning hours. That massive sweep isolated a very specific car, a white Hyundai Elantra. Registration records led them directly to Bryan Kohberger. He drove that exact model, and he lived in Pullman, Washington, a short 15-minute drive from the crime scene, where he was studying the criminal mind at Washington State University. Historical cell data showed his device pinging towers near the victim's house 12 times before November, but on the night of the crime, tracking stops. His phone was powered down for exactly 2 hours, mirroring the murder time frame, before reconnecting as he drove away. But Kohberger's background meant he knew this digital dragnet had a massive flaw. Cell phone pings cover broad radii. They prove his device was in the general vicinity, but they cannot prove his physical hands were inside that bedroom. To secure a conviction, the police had to narrow their massive statewide suite down to the space of a few inches. On the bed, right next to 2 of the victims, the killer had left behind the leather sheath for his weapon. When a person grips an object forcefully, the friction rubs away microscopic amounts of skin cells and sweat. Forensic scientists call this touch DNA. In the brief, high adrenaline moment it took to unsnap that metallic button and draw the blade, the killer transferred a nearly invisible trace of his own biology onto the metal. Using advanced genetic genealogy, investigators extracted those microscopic cells from the snap, built a genetic profile, and matched it directly to Bryan Kohberger's family tree. Every calculated attempt to evade digital tracking was undone by a single involuntary physical reflex, a drop of sweat left behind in the dark. In late December, heavily armed tactical teams descended on Kohberger's family home in Pennsylvania, where he had driven for the winter holidays. He was taken into custody and officially charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. He had spent years reading textbooks and analyzing the psychology of offenders from a safe academic distance, but the sterile theories of the classroom failed to account for the chaotic, messy reality of committing a crime with a human body. This investigation proved that years of academic theory cannot account for a single, uncontrollable biological reflex. A lifetime spent studying how to evade the law was dismantled by a mistake less than a millimeter wide.